Our first reading for this upcoming Sunday comes from the book of Leviticus. It's part of the Pentateuch, the first 5 books of the Bible, and it's all about laws. It tells the Israelites how they can live in relationship with Yahweh, who is all holy, who is perfect, transcendent. Our particular passage, it tells the Israelites what to do if they think they have leprosy. They should go to the priest, show themselves to the priest, and the priest will make a judgment about whether it's leprosy or just eczema. Now, if you're curious about how the priest would make that judgment, you're out of luck, because we skip the 42 verses which talk all about how to determine whether a skin condition is infectious and bad or benign and just needs some moisturizer. And what we do, we go right to the consequences of leprosy. And those consequences are pretty serious. So it tells us that they had to rend their clothing, that they had to uncover their head and cover their face. And whenever they saw other people, they had to yell out, "Unclean, unclean, I have leprosy, be careful." And worst of all, they had to isolate them oneself. They had to go outside the community, outside of the town, outside of the village, and live in the wilderness until the leprosy cleared up. And so there were 2 main reasons for this. So one, when Leviticus was being written, people were of the thought that leprosy was an infectious skin condition, that by coming in contact with it, you could receive it yourself. And so they would isolate in order to not infect other people, much like we do with the coronavirus. But there's a second reason, and a little bit more important reason, and that's that this disease of leprosy is incompatible with relationship with Yahweh and relationship with his people. Because Yahweh is all holy. Yahweh is perfect, all good, all healthy. And so disease is incompatible with his nature, especially an infectious disease that could harm other people. So leprosy is incompatible with who Yahweh is, so it demands a separation both from worship and from the community. Now, this idea, it gets flipped on its head in the gospel. Because in the gospel, a leper comes into the presence of Yahweh in Jesus, the God-man. In Jesus, he doesn't reject him. He doesn't send him away for being unclean. But instead, his heart is moved with pity because of the man's uncleanness, with love, with compassion. And this pity, it drives Jesus not to stay at a distance and speak a word of command, but instead to reach out and touch the man. The spotless one encounters uncleanness and transforms it. And this is something incredible, something new, that the all-holy one, the spotless one, he wants to encounter our blemishes. He wants to enter into the deepest and darkest parts of our hearts. The all-holy one, the perfect one. He wants to encounter us where we're most hurting. He wants to encounter the thing that we think disqualifies us from happiness or from good relationships. And that's exactly where he wants to love us. This is something totally new, and it flips Leviticus on its head. Now, the next thing that happens in the gospel is Jesus tells the man to show himself to the priest and offer what Moses prescribed. Now that takes us back to Leviticus, the next chapter, chapter 14, which describes the sacrifice a person healed from leprosy would make. And it first involved 2 birds, cedar wood, scarlet yarn, and a hyssop branch. So first there's this sacrifice. And then after that, there's a full body shave. And then you wait 7 days. Then you do a second full body shave. And then you offer another sacrifice of 3 lambs, flour, and oil. And so this was a pretty intricate and bountiful, abundant sacrifice. And that shows us just how big a deal it was to be restored to relationship to the community and to Yahweh, that they would give such abundant thanks. And so Jesus tells the man, go and do that. Do what Moses told you to do. And the reason this is in our gospel is he's about to come in conflict with the authorities, the religious authorities of his day. He's about to heal a man in the they say, whoa, what's going on here? There's something up. And the problem was that Jesus' actions, they were in tension with a pretty strict interpretation of Leviticus, a strict interpretation of the law. And obviously, Jesus, he's God. He's not gonna break his own rules. But Leviticus wasn't written with the incarnation in mind. It could never anticipate that God would become human, take on human flesh, a human nature. And so because of that, Leviticus is written more narrowly. It's written without the idea of the incarnation in mind. And so Jesus, obviously God, he's not going to break his own rules, but certainly some of his actions are in tension with a strict interpretation of Leviticus, which is written for people who are just people, not God and man. But so then in our gospel today, Jesus is saying, no, I'm on the side of Moses. Do what Moses prescribed. I'm for him. I'm doing what he did. Jesus is on the side of the law. Now our gospel ends with Jesus telling the man to not tell anybody about him healing him. It's a continuation of the Markan secret that we've seen the last couple weeks, that Jesus, he doesn't want people to get the wrong impression of him. He doesn't want them to call him Messiah without understanding what it means. And so he tells the man, don't tell anybody about it. And the man, he goes out and he tells everybody about it. And so Jesus remains in the deserted places, and he's unable to enter into any town openly. So our gospel, it began with the leper being unable to enter into the towns openly and remaining in the deserted places. And the gospel, it ends with Jesus, the God-man, being unable to enter into towns openly and remaining in the deserted places. And so there's this reversal where Jesus enters into the suffering of the leper, and Jesus becomes the leper, the one who can't enter into town, the one who remains in the deserted places. And this tells us more about Jesus' messiahship than the healing itself. It tells us that Jesus, the Messiah, he is God coming down and entering into the depth of human misery and suffering. He's the all-holy one, the all-happy one, who enters into total misery, total sadness. And he does that for a reason. He does that so he can encounter each of us in the depths of our heart, in the depths of our darkness. And encountering us there, he is moved with pity, and he reaches out his hand, and he touches us, and he heals us. That is what it means to be Messiah.